Hello, everybody. Good evening. This is DH Thorne here, coming at you live on this Orange Wednesday. Thursday. No, Wednesday was orange. Thursday is just a little yellowy orange. So, what's going on, everybody? Hopefully, everybody's doing good. I'm a little distracted because of my audio here. Let me turn that down a little bit. And let's start saying hi to everybody. I'm a little bit low energy today. I had a cheat week because the wife was finally off work a little bit. She works 7 days a week during the spring season at the nursery, and she finally started getting her days off this week. So we had a active couple of days. We went, hung out. We went to one of the Tanger malls on Long Island here Wednesday, and we walked around. We ate all kinds of food that I'm not supposed to eat, and put me right off keto. Although I've been very bad with keto lately, I've actually gained a few pounds back. It's not like the worst, but it's like, I've kind of stabilized a little bit bigger than I had gotten to. But eating carby food um, kind of screws with me, especially once I go back on keto. You get like keto flu. So I'm like right in the midst of keto flu. Plus, with all of this smoky stuff in the air, even though it's nowhere near as bad today as it was yesterday, it's still like getting in the house, and it gives you just a little bit of like, you can have issues. Like if you have allergies or whatever, of course you can, if you have breathing problems, it'll really screw you up. And a lot of people were getting headaches. Some people I know were getting headaches. It didn't bother me at all. It kind of just seemed like I was burning incense. It just smelled like a campfire to me, but it wasn't that bad. It was actually more like a creosote smell. If you know what creosote smells like, that's kind of what it smelled like. But yeah, it definitely got close to that picture that I used as the thumbnail for this video. It definitely got close to that. Even out like, where we were hanging out on Long Island, it was definitely a shade of orange, and it was really cool. I mean, like I said in the thing, this is the dystopia I was looking forward to. Instead of this weird crap we're going through. Anyway, so let's add everybody. We got Joffrey says, sounds awesome. My favorite dystopia of all time has been Cryo Chamber Cyberpunk Monorail. That's pretty good ambient loop there. They're pretty good. I'm kind of tired of them, although I will say I wrote Become the Maelstrom almost entirely while listening to Cryo Chamber. These days I find other things. Some of the novelty of Cryo Chamber has worn off, but it's still pretty good. There's actually, if I can find the name of it, I'll share it in a minute, but there's this video that I found that is supposed to be like what dementia is like. And I don't know if I saved it. I guess I didn't. It's probably on my history. But it's like all this slow, music from like the 40s and 30s and 50s, almost like the music from The Shining, like when they were showing it's like ballroom music from that era, and it's like slowed down and distorted and warped, and I loved it actually. Like other people were like, this is so creepy. I'm like, nah, this is cool. I like this. I want to listen to this. So Wyatt says, I asked Cthulhu if I can get some incense, which his incense is present in, and this is what I get. Nice. And Christian comments on that. Cthulhu's preferred incense, the smoke from burning modern civilization. Yeah, not wrong. Jockster likes the cover picture. Thank you very much. It's totally real. I didn't take it, but I found it on the internet. Raquel Kelly says, good evening. Hails to DH and to all the wonderful people here. Thank you, Raquel. We appreciate you as always. Stu Henny says, you have now entered Blade Runner world. Just about. Although Blade Runner world was way cooler than this one. I liked Blade Runner world. This one's too, it's too clean. We need more. I want the hyper capitalistic dystopia. Give me that one. I want the one where like RoboCop, Blade Runner, like the intersection of that, where like, and Shadowrun, right? And some people are gonna say like Cyberpunk. I never played Cyberpunk, so I don't know, but just bear with me. I want to be able to go to like the corner drugstore, and like behind the wall where they would normally keep cigarettes are just racks of like, plasma pulse rifles and crap. Like that's what I want. So give me that one, not this one that we got. Not this super sensitive, super soft, super, squishy edges nonsense that we have. No, thank you. Raquel Kelly says it's cool, like Snake Plissken's world. Yeah. Oh, excuse me. My snake is actually, I named him Snek Plissken. But yeah, you know, the whole story of Escape from New York, you know, it's not really so much of a fiction. It's pretty much, you know, a prediction to a degree. It's a metaphor, you know, it's an allegory, but it is a prediction, and it's largely true. Like, if you're any kind of a person like me, things like, you know, Manhattan have lost their charm. They're just like, you don't want to be there. There's nothing wrong with it. It's just, it doesn't do it for me. Visiting's enough. A little bit of visiting now and then's plenty, but it's kind of lost its vibe for me. I don't really get into it. Faustian says, hello everyone. Are we living in Blade Runner universe already, or is there still hope? Just so you know, if you think it's getting bad, and you know, I've been contributing to that perspective. If you think it's getting bad, no, what's happening is it's getting obvious. It's always been this bad. Everything you're seeing that you're going, oh my God, this is so bad. This is how it's always been. It's been this way your whole life. Even if you're older than me, even if you're like 60 or 70, it has been this bad. It's just they kept it under the radar all this time. And now it's getting exposed, and that's why so much crap is breaking loose, because too many things are being exposed. The good news is that can't last. Anybody who knows history knows that where we're at right now, there's more than two ways, but there's two main directions it goes. You either have a complete collapse of the establishment and some sort of a reboot that hopefully will, you know, correct what it has become, or they somehow triumph and start cracking down on the population. So I don't think that's coming. I really don't. Maybe 10, 20 years ago, I thought it was happening or was going to happen. Now I'm not so convinced. That's why I've been sort of calm about it, because to me, it's like it was getting bad for a minute and it's going to get worse. But I don't know. We'll have to see how this goes. I'm not scared. You know, it's just one of those things that we're in bad shape, guys. No question. Tropa says, greetings, man. It's not like New York bad in Ohio, but it sure stinks here and overcast in the sky earlier. Couldn't see the sun. Yeah, the cool thing is you could see the sun, but it was literally like hot, brilliant, blazing orange. Like, it was a really cool color. That was our first clue something was going on. We had no idea there was even wildfires in Canada when I saw the sun on Tuesday. It was just like, oh, it's, you know. Had that kind of peach orange that the morning sun often gets when it's on the horizon. But it was like 11 o'clock. It's like, it's doing this at 11 a.m. Usually it's over with by then. Usually it's bright, you know, just a bright yellow, bright white sun. So yeah. Oh, people have been chatting. I got to scroll here. Let's see here. So Atropa's here. What's up, Atropa? Joffrey's here. Hello, he says. Hello, Joffrey. Jay Baldale is here. Hail, unholy ones. And good evening, they say. Eddie says, let's go. Oh, yes, indeed. You know, like I said, I'm a little low energy tonight, so this may be a short stream. I'm not gonna fake it. I tried writing today and I couldn't get anything to come out. Like, I was writing and I knew what I wanted to say, and it was just, I had a fog because of the keto flu. Let's see. Jose Munez says, what's up, DH Thorne? What's up? Tommy Carson's here. Good evening. And the 93s brothers. Okay. Nanerta says, what's up, DH? Eddie says the air is orange because it's Protestant. Okay. Ooh, here's a good question. Order of the Black Dragon has a question. Ooh, excuse me. And he says, hey, DH, I am a Hindu practitioner. What's your view on me taking magical dark magic revenge on someone? This is a complicated question, because on the one perspective, I have an axiom which is all is divine and nothing is forbidden. This means that this whole idea of a moralistic world where, you know, karma is going to come get you and all kinds of stuff that we see in pop culture, spirituality, I don't see it that way. The divine has manifested a sadomasochistic orgy starring itself in all of the key roles. It is both the murderer and the murdered. It is the victim and the victimizer. It is the person that wants to gain revenge and the person who deserves revenge. You ultimately, from the non-dual view, as a Hindu practitioner, you must be familiar. From the non-dual view, you are this person that you want. So to be clear, you're not the person. The person's, it's a manifestation. It is an act. People and persons, this is an appearance in consciousness, and consciousness is the divine. Like what we call consciousness from a secular view is the consciousness of the divine, and all is that divine being. So when you're getting revenge on that individual, you're getting revenge on yourself. Now, if that doesn't give you pause and make you think maybe I shouldn't do that, that's fine, because obviously wolves still eat sheep. The divine doesn't sit there and say, what a sin. Oh, what a horrible tragedy that you're doing this. No, all experiences are valid. All experiences are the play of divinity. The question, though, is that when you awaken to your divinity and the divinity that we all are, you have to start asking questions. Are you really comfortable? And on what level are you comfortable? Where is your line in the sand? What for you is a pragmatic, natural choice, like a wolf eating a sheep or putting down a rabid dog, versus is this just ego on your part? Are you just egoistically mad at this person? Is this really just a selfish, foolish thing? Or is there a legitimate reason? Now, when I say that, a lot of people will respond with, yes, they did this, so it's legitimate. I'm not going to tell you or judge you per se what you're doing, but I would encourage you not to act from an egoistic place. When you act from an egoistic place, you are wasting your energy. You are actually reinforcing your delusions, which allowed that person potentially, depending upon the story, which helped allow that person to get the better of you such that you want revenge. Someone who has managed to find a way to transcend their ego doesn't mean the ego goes away. It doesn't mean it stops happening. It just means you recognize that this identity that you think you are is a puppet on your hand. It's not really you. You cannot be hurt by anyone or anything. No one can actually harm you. The real you is above all these things that could ever be construed as harm. You are the consciousness that is watching itself through this form, through these delusions, through this story of who you are. So what you're telling me is one character in the story did something that offended or hurt or otherwise victimized another character in the story. From a purely, like, the perspective of an author of stories, sure, do what you got to do. But if you are aware of your divinity and you're aware that the divine is in both sides of the equation and it's the same divinity, you have to ask yourself, is this justice? Is this a rabid dog? Am I doing this for a pragmatic reason? Or is this just to serve my pride? Why is that important? An idiot will say because it's immoral, and as an immoral thing, you shouldn't do it. Well, that's codified compassion. Morality is codified compassion. It's artificial. Moral codes of society are created by people who might have a true, sincere, compassionate view, but they see around them a bunch of animals, people who don't know they're the divine. It sees a bunch of hairless apes running around throwing shit at each other. And it goes, you know what? This is, number one, it's not a very civilized society, which means there's a lot of problems. But number two, I'm aware that all is divine, and I want to encourage people to act like it. So they create these codified systems of morality for people who lack sincere compassion. If you have a genuine, sincere heart of compassion, you don't need codified morality. Like pretty much, except to know what society expects of you, you don't need it. So I don't need codified morality because I understand what you are. And so I'm not going to act on you without really good pragmatic reasoning. I'm going to act as I would against a rabid dog, or in the course of nature. There is conflict, or shall we say apparent conflict, because really there is no conflict in nature. Nature is an appearance, but the conflict of nature appears, it does look that way, but only at a certain level of perspective. As Alan Watts said, on one level, it looks like conflict at this level, but at a higher level, it's harmony. Spiders eat flies, wolves eat sheep, soldiers kill people, blah, 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 blah. Now, so what is my view on you taking magical, dark magic revenge on someone? My advice to you, if you really want to pursue that course, but you want to do it in a way that respects the fact that they are an aspect of the same being your personal self is, I recommend using the shadows. Because the good thing about shadow curses, if you will, is that you inflict upon the person their own toxic shadow behavior, such that it's revealed to them, like it becomes so obvious that they either integrate or it devours them. They're, in a sense, they're certainly not light-handed. They're certainly not a soft touch. But it gives the other person a chance to integrate and stop being the kind of person that you would want to curse. Okay? Now, again, I'm not going to tell you what to do. You have every right to practice your magic the way you want to. But if you're asking the question, are you asking because you want a technique? Well, that's a dumb question. No offense. That's a dumb question. There's a dime a dozen techniques out there. You can find a good technique anywhere. When you're asking what's my take on it, or what's my view on it, my view has nothing to do with the practicality of it. My view has entirely to do, you said, as a Hindu practitioner, meaning you're coming, there are dualistic versions of Hinduism. But if you're coming from an Advaita or Vishtavishtaita, I can't pronounce it, the qualified non-duals, if you're coming from, or Kashmir Shaivism, any of those things, you're coming from any non-dual take, you must know that you're cursing yourself. That doesn't mean you do it. And it doesn't mean you don't do it. The question is that I always have, would you cut your own arm off to spite your face? Would you cut your own hand off to spite your face? Or would you cut your nose off to spite your face? There is a time when doing destruction is necessary. If my hand is infected with gangrene, I don't want to die from that. Chop, hand gone. Sorry. If someone is doing you harm, if they are just really a pain in your ass for, and you've tried everything, by all means, use magic to deal with it. People are gonna be like, Thorne, you sound like Love and Light. So what? So fucking what? It's not about how I sound. Listen to what I'm saying. A Love and Lighter would say, never do it. It's so evil and wrong. They don't know why it's wrong. They're just spouting something that they've heard. They've been told, they've been taught by society, don't do it because it's immoral, but they don't know why. They don't genuinely understand. A left-hand path person doesn't observe taboos that way. It's not about codified morality. It's about sincere compassion. And if you lack compassion for whatever reason, then be sincere at least in whatever you're doing. Be sincere about what you're doing. Be honest with yourself first. So my final recommendation is, well, recommendation part 1, think this through from a non-dual perspective if you are truly in that frame. Number 2, consider using a shadow curse, because that's more likely to work on their state of being. In fact, it may even be exactly what they need from the divine's perspective. Hey, this character that I'm playing as could use a good throttling by a magician to learn their lesson, for example. Third, do your own fucking shadow work and recognize why you want to do it. Try to find out, is this just my bruised ego? Is this something more or something even less? If it is just your bruised ego, why? Like, I mock people regularly who curse people because of something that was said to them online. One of the things that got me famous sort of right off the bat was I made a meme that was making fun of all these pathetic motherfuckers who would get their asses in a twist because someone said something they didn't like in a chat room or on Facebook. You know, someone else in the community that's like a popular person said that they didn't like, so they cursed the shit out of them. I did a death curse on such and so because they didn't like my post. We all know some people in the community like that, although I don't consider them part of my community. And I won't name names, but some of you guys know who I'm talking about. There's a certain guy who's regularly involved in all the drama every time. And they're constantly bragging about how they death curse people. They claim they death cursed, you know, this one dude who passed away in a tragedy. Yes, it was a tragic thing. Maybe it worked. Maybe they did get him. Yeah. They claim that they cursed me because my computer died, but they thought I put a picture up that I put fake flames all over, and they thought it literally caught on fire. And you know, they thought that they almost killed me on purpose with like I was trying to have him burned away, but I missed and got his computer. What a crock of shit. So there's these people out there that are just mental. They're diseased. Their mind is diseased. And they get offended about something online and they go cursing people. I got to tell you, people who do that, I have more fear of a mosquito, because someone like that isn't disciplined. They haven't done the work. It's literally a LARP for them, or they're just crazy. Anybody who throws curses over the littlest thing is ridiculous. So I'm not saying that's you, by the way. I'm saying all of this is generalizations just about the topic. But you have to ask yourself, why am I doing this? Maybe I could spend that energy in a better way. I actually, and this isn't a love and light thing, from a left-hand path perspective, being very self-centered sometimes. I'm not, but sometimes I allow myself to be. I would rather buff myself, because I agree with the old axiom, living well is one of the best forms of revenge. So if someone hates you, sometimes the best thing you can do is just succeed and just look at them in the corner and smile every now and then. Maybe even offer them a little bit of table scraps just to show how magnanimously superior you are. So that's my advice, and I'm not going to hit you much worse than that. You did follow up, though, with the question of, will I get bad karma? Clearly, and I mean this with no disrespect, that kind of a question tells me you don't know what's going on. There is no such thing as bad karma. Karma is karma is karma is karma is karma. There's no good karma. There's no bad karma. Karma literally translates into the word action. Now, there's different perspectives depending upon what tradition you're in. So what I'm about to say is part of my tradition on karma, but it's found in other traditions as well. One tradition will tell you that karma is a criminal justice system of the divine. That's a crock of shit. That's just typical religiosity, moral codification. It's just nonsense. Karma means egoic action. So if you believe in the laws of cause and effect as they appear, if you believe that your little individual self does anything, that's karma. You're already in a karmic state. Because you as an individual do not exist as a separate individual that interacts with and acts upon the world. That is not, from a non-dual perspective, which is where karma, the concept, comes from generally. Yes, I know it's not limited to that. But the non-dual perspective of karma is karma results from egoic perspective, egoic action, dualistic perspective. So this is mirrored in Christianity where it says, judgment is mine, so saith the Lord. It's a very similar concept. This is why I often say Christianity is like they took non-duality and dualized it and ruined it. You know, they took Christianity that may have been, and I shouldn't say Christianity, I mean Judeo-Christian, you know, all of it. Abrahamism. They took what, the interesting thing about monotheism is it's basically non-duality, but with a duality in it. There is one true God, and everything that is written about that God is almost, at least in the impersonal sense, everything that's written about that God that's not part of the personal personification, you know, he is this, he is that, just the essence of Yahweh or Yahweh or however you want to pronounce it. Just the essence of that being is exactly the same that we see in Hinduism and all these. It's the same exact thing. You got the Holy Trinity, God the Father, Son, Holy Ghost, you know, Vishnu, Brahma, and Shiva. It's the same thing. They even represent kind of the same things as well. So there is a non-dual way to interpret Christianity. And in that tradition, the perspective is that it is all God's will, or it is God's decision, right? God is judge, not you. Well, that's because you as an individual person don't exist as a person. A person is an act you're playing. You're God right now. Now, some people get that in their heads and they think, aha, that means I am not just free to do what I want. Of course you're free to do what you want. But they think that that means that they should do whatever they want. Well, you should nor shouldn't do anything. The will is what is done always. It's not about should or shouldn't. The will is free. You can't control the will. Your will be done, period. You know, people will say like, well, Thorne, how do I change my will? That's like, I'm not even sure what a good analogy for how bad a question that is, but that would be like, how do I tell myself how to steer a car? Like how do I speak the words that I want to speak? It's like, you're already doing it. You're already doing it. When I say you're already doing it though, I don't mean you, the Order of the Black Dragon. I mean you, the divine, through the Order of the Black Dragon, or D.H. Thorne, or Eddie Romanoff. The divine will is you, incarnate. So why is karma a problem? Because karma, by definition, is action, and action is only possible for a thing that changes, moves, has conflict, and has dualistic nature. Action is only possible when you have two participants. If there is one eternal thing that is unchanging, it's infinite, it is boundless, it is timeless, then there can be no action, can there? So when you are deeply absorbed in the illusion of your dualistic mortality, you're already experiencing karma, and karma will not stop until you transcend that and begin learning to act sincerely, spontaneously, intuitively, and not from an egoistic perspective. Most people, even upon attaining a non-dual realization, continue doing that for most of their life. Not everybody awakens to the point where they're a mythological figure that never acts from an egoistic place again. Most people, when they acknowledge and realize their non-duality, that just becomes a new framework for their ego. Like myself, the divine within me has no questions. It doesn't not know itself, but it has cut itself off consciously from the rest of itself. When I say cut itself off, I don't mean separated. I mean it's ignoring the rest of itself. It's like knowing something is there and pretending it's not, to the point where you just about forget it. So when you have a non-dual awakening, you get a little bit of that back. You get a realization back, hey, this whole idea that this is a thing here and I'm here and this and this and this, that's an illusion. The reality of I is the consciousness that is aware of the I. That is what I am. I am not the I that I speak of. I am the I that is unspoken. I am the I that witnesses. That is what all of us are. But because this sadomasochistic orgy starring one in all the key roles is so much fucking fun, even when the divine realizes, oh, I'm not this is just a show. Well, then let's play the fucking game all the way. It's a game. Let's play it. So from that perspective, you'll find that there is no such thing as karma. Karma is illusory, just like the ego. It goes with the ego. But as you learn your divinity, your egoic intentions, your egoic nature stops deciding. In other words, let me give you an analogy, right? Most of us, let's say that this hand is the ego and this hand is the divine. 99% of you listening to me right now are doing this. Which hand is facing forward? The ego. You think your ego with consciousness as a side effect in the background. The non-dualist does this, and they recognize that their consciousness and they're wearing an ego like a mask, and they realize that. And when they do, their whole attitude about life changes, about how to treat others changes. It's not even a question of, oh, Thorne's swilling the right-hand path. No, both the left and right reach this same union eventually. They just get there in a different way. So, will you get bad karma? If you act from an egoistic perspective, yeah, that's karma. Your question is karma. Your interest is karma. You're already karmaing up the ass. You know, you're already taking karma up the ass right now. So how does one get rid of that? How does one not? Well, if you learn to transcend egoic attitude, act with less me centered thinking, more in terms of a more neutral or non-dual perspective of it. I'm not going to tell you ego goes away, because ego's not a score. It's not hit points. You don't acquire karma and then have to get rid of it. That's a useful myth in many religions, because it, as part of their codified morality, it causes people to seek justice and to try, when they've done wrong, to apologize. That's all sincerely compassionate behavior. But it's not sincere when you're doing it for codified reasons. So, Order of the Black Dragon, I've got bad news for you. And anybody, including especially on the right-hand path, if you do what is thought to be good because you have been told that it is good and you want to be a good person, you just downed a whole gallon of karma juice. The person who does good because they want to be a good person, that's karma. If you think karma is bad, then that's bad. It's bad. So it's kind of like when you have a little child and you're trying to teach a child to be sincerely compassionate about others. The worst thing you can do is force them to be compassionate by rules in which you punish them. They don't learn to be compassionate. They simply learn what not to do to avoid getting in trouble. It's like I asked my kid when he was really little. I said, did you do that because it was the right thing to do or because you were afraid to be punished? My son's so awesome, he was honest about it. He said, well, I was afraid I'd get punished. Okay. Good man. Good to admit. And then I asked him, knowing that, what should you strive for? To do the right thing because it's the right thing. Oh, good on you, kiddo. And hopefully you live that way. That doesn't mean you don't do it the other way from time to time, because here's the irony. If you try not to do it because you don't want to build up karma, you're building up karma by trying not to build up karma, you see? You kind of can't avoid this, because every time that every example I'm giving you is an egoistic delusion trying to avoid ramifications of karma. You're acting karmic just by doing that. You know how you don't have to deal with karma? Just let it the fuck go. Just be you. Don't worry about it. And when I say be you, I don't mean be D.H. Thorne or Order of the Black Dragon. Be the divine who's wearing that as a skin. See the world through God's eyes and act accordingly, not because you're supposed to, but because you can't help it. When you wake up to your divinity, even a little tiny bit, when you truly awaken to it, it's not it's always a choice, but it's not a this or that choice. It's not a binary choice. I'm going to be a jerk or I'm going to be good to people. No, you act according to your nature, not according to your ego. And your nature isn't just this, and it is not just consciousness, although it is all consciousness. From this embodied perspective, your body has a nature. A wolf eats sheep. That's its nature. It's not evil for doing that. It's not building karma by doing that. You're not building karma because you decided to have a cheeseburger. Some traditions extend it into that because they go, well, that was a living thing and you know better and you blah, blah, blah. Well, that's moralistic shit. It's true for them, not for everyone. If you want to have no karma, have no codified morality and simply exist as a sincerely compassionate being. Again, a sincerely compassionate being will do pragmatic things that society might not view as good. Going back in time and running into Hitler while he's still a baby in a crib. There's three things you can do. You can be like, oh, that's little baby Hitler, and leave him alone because you don't want to murder. Then there's option two. Well, you just put the pillow over little baby Hitler's face, right? Bye-bye, Hitler. I saved the future. There's also a third possibility. What if you dedicated your life to raising Hitler to be not a fucking mass murdering genocidal piece of shit? Oof, that's the tough one, right? How many of you would have chose that answer? Well, that's a good answer. Does that mean that putting the pillow over the baby is a bad answer? I'll leave that to you to decide. Quite a while ago, you had a super show. Yeah, thank you, honey. Even walking away. The question is, what's your motivation? Karma is about the why, not the what. Karma is entirely about the why. The why is the reason you have karma at all. It's not the what. What you do does not cause karma. It's why you're doing it. It's why you think you're doing it. Karma is attachment. It is one of the leading forms of attachment that you have. Because you think everything is a line of cause and effect. This happened, so I do this, so I must do that. This leads to a non-stop domino effect of causality, which is an illusion. This non-stop domino effect of causality where someday in the distant future, when you're on your deathbed, you're going to go, I can't die, I still have something left to do. It's a form of attachment. Or there's this injustice that I'm feeling guilty about, or this injustice that I must correct that someone else did, and I'm going to die. And that's all attachment. Karma, yes, it means action, but a better word might be action that leads to attachment or attached action. So if you don't want karma, it's not about cursing or not. The fact that you ask, should I curse or will I get karma? You just got karma for that. Just that alone, you got karma. And you're not going to get rid of it by saying a whole bunch of prayers and doing some kind of bullshit. No. Karma is dropped in its entirety, or it is not dropped at all. You can't drop a little bit of karma. You either drop it completely or you don't. And if you do something karmic, you pick it back up completely again. It's an either or. It's not a little of this, a little of that, and there's no path to getting rid of it. There is just not doing what generates karma, meaning not acting in a way that is egoic. Now, again, there's a big propensity in spiritual circles to demonize the ego. The ego is not bad, it's just often behaving badly. The ego is often, like in the Zen sphere, is often analogized to the monkey brain. It's this semi-intelligent mind that is also stupid as fuck. And it's at the mercy of its base instincts and desires and drives and ambitions and blah, 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 blah. So the monkey brain is an idiot. They're not good or evil. They're just like a child. They're like a childish animal. That's what your ego really is like. It's like a childish animal. No matter how sophisticated you become, how educated, how well behaved, how moralistic, or how cultured you are still a childish animal if you're acting in an egoic way. Now, ego can be clarified. Ego can be distilled such that it is you no longer have this confusion that you are that. Ego becomes an act that you do on purpose, or witness on purpose, if you will. It becomes an act that is no longer like at the mercy of an outside world or is who you are. You step back from the simulation and realize I'm not that thing that's being simulated. Think of it like you're playing a video game like Legend of Zelda, and you've been playing it so long you forgot that you're not Link. And everything you do is from the perspective of Link, no longer a player playing Link. So when you're in Link's shoes fully and you think you're Link, you take everything that Link does more seriously, as well as the world around it, and this can lead to suffering. Does it matter to you in your real life if Link gets their head chopped off? No, it's a video game. You click respawn. Does it really matter if when you lose the game fizzles out on your computer and you can never play it again? No, it's just a loss of time. It doesn't really affect you that way. You're just the witness of the video game. You're the one playing it. You're not Link. Nothing that happens in that game can hurt you. And likewise, nothing that person did to you actually hurts you. It only hurts your egoic form. Does that mean that you roll over and be a doormat? Of course not. It just means, let me put it to you like this. If the video game beats you, are you a childish asshole who picks up the console and throws it at the screen and breaks the TV and the console just to get revenge on it? In a similar sense, when we do these things, why are you doing it? Are you being a childish, egoic idiot? who is throwing the controller at the screen. Only really, why is that metaphor pertinent? Because the TV is not you too, Thorne. Yeah, but that TV costs you money. Now you're going to have to work to replace it. You get it? So you're really just hurting yourself. That's the meaning. You're spiting yourself. The video game doesn't care what you do. Does Ganon really exist? Does Ganon care if you beat him? Ganon's a bunch of code, dude. So are you. So is this person you think you are. Not in the literal sense, like computer code, but it's platonic form code, whatever you want to call it. Pure information in the mind of the divine. That is what this person is that you think you are. Did that really hurt you? No. Nothing can hurt you. This is why, even when I first entered the scene as this big left-hand path guy, I didn't go around cursing based on ego. I mocked the living shit out of that. That's childish. It's a waste of time. There's better ways to spend your energy. Does that mean you shouldn't do it or should? Again, I'm not going to hold your hand. And I'm not going to judge you if you do it. But just know that if you're doing it for that egoic reason, you're just pissing into the wind. You may end up killing them. And that might feel great. But let me ask you something. What's your reason for wanting to do it? I don't mean what did they do? Most people, when I say that, if I say, what's your reason? They'll respond, well, they did this. That's not your reason, ding dong. That's your excuse. What's your reason? Really trace back your intention to its source. Why are you really wanting to do this? Does this really satisfy something important, or is this just to make your pride feel better? Aren't there other ways that you can improve your sense of self? Now, again, if this is a problem for you, if this person is constantly harming you and badgering you, and they're a constant thorn in your side in life, then by all means, do whatever is necessary. They're a rabid dog at that point. But if this is just someone who insulted you, stole your girlfriend, robbed you, and you're not going to really deal with them again, just ask yourself why you want to do it. And if you're okay with that, if you get to the end of that rainbow and you see your egoic self sitting on a throne going, "'Cause he offended us, motherfucker," then go ahead and do it. Because to not do it is no less egoic, is my point. If you sit there and go, "I want to do it because of my ego, but I'm afraid of karma," you just got karma right there. You're not going to get less by not doing it. It's just like in Christianity, where in most schools of Christian thought, a sin is a sin is a sin is a sin. Yes, there's the deadly sins, but the deadly sins are deadly because they lead to other sin. But one sin is just as bad as the other. One karma is just as negative as the other. So if you're doing this because they did something to me and I want to get revenge, that is no worse than not doing it because you don't want fucking karma. If your reason isn't for compassion and non-dual selflessness, you just got karma anyway. So you might as well fucking curse them. Now, I think that's a complete answer. Hopefully that works for you. In fact, I'm going to soda bottle mic drop that shit. That's my mic drop on the whole question of cursing and karma and this and that. From a non-dual left-hand perspective, that's it. There's literally nothing that I would change or say different. All right, let me scroll. I know my wife reminded me that I had a super chat. Let me scrolly. I'm going to miss a whole bunch of nice little things. Hopefully I can find Patchy's. There it is. Okay. I'm not sure what Patchy was referring to. He says, it's both the deficit and satanic. I'm not sure what that was in reference to, Patchy. But I get it. That was a comment about something that was being said. Charles asked if I've ever worked with Lucifuge Rofacale. No, I have not. Honestly, over time, I have completely shifted away from a lot of those medieval grimoire, and a lot of the spirits therein. We don't have a really good picture of them. You have to remember that a lot of those spirits were, some of them were made up, to be brutally honest. Some of them were reinterpretations of pagan gods and shit. Some of them are meant to go along with the angels, you know, as a one-for-one kind of, here's the angel of this, here's the demon of that. And they're supposed to be seen as two sides of the same being in some cases, believe it or not. So traditions vary on what they mean and what they're supposed to be. Me personally, I'm finding most of it tiresome. I'm kind of tired of theistic-minded people. No offense to you if that's what you're into, but I'm not a theist. I'm not an atheist. But people who are strong theists, who really treat these beings in a dualistic fashion as real, you're just looking to be as lost as the average Christian. I know some people come out of Christianity and go, Jesus isn't real, God's not real, they never answer my prayers, and then they'll go off and they'll succumb to the exact same practices and pitfalls that the Christians fall into. It's no different. To the point of tribalistic insanity. I've had people claim they were going to curse me because I was insulting towards, I forget which spirit. Oh, because I think I said fuck Lucifer. No, the Lucifer I know, if you say fuck Lucifer, he's clapping. He's like Crom from Conan. He doesn't want your fucking worship. He's not there to save your ass. He wants you. He's Prometheus, man. He's bringing fire to you. He wants you to rise above him. He wants you to realize your divinity. To hell with the spirit world. As soon as I started working with Lucifer again, like whole hog instead of just as a patron on the side, I just had to put the other ones away. And then Lucifer himself just started becoming less and less focal point. Till eventually it's like, you graduated, you don't need us anymore. I'm exaggerating in a sense because I'll still commune with them on occasion, but it's no longer like a thing that I do because like, oh, this is part of my tradition or something. However, from the perspective that spirits are real beings, they are, just like you are, but they're also unreal beings just like you are. So I'm not saying that spirits are made up, but in a lot of ways they are. Their forms are made up. Their stories are made up, but they represent something about divinity which manifests as that mask, just like divinity manifests as you. It's just that those spirits tend to be discarnate, and somewhere in the multiverse, they may be the same kind of real that you are real and unreal. In other words, somewhere in the multiverse, there may be a heaven and a hell. There may be a dimension where, you know, Zeus is reigning over the world from Mount Olympus. There may be a dimension where you are Zeus reigning over the world from that dimension. But that just falls into an ego trap the more you reify it. I treat spirits just like I treat any other person I meet, with the knowledge that behind them is the same divinity that's behind D.H. Thorne. It's two masks, it's two puppets talking to each other. And I watch that conversation and I enjoy the hell out of it. I guide that conversation by choosing what's said. That doesn't mean that anything is being said. So to follow up with Black Dragon, because they were asking what shadow. So I'm not trying to sell you on my book, but I do have a book on that. It's Shadownomicon. And you might have luck with that if it resonates with you, if you're still here. I haven't seen you, Dragon. I don't know if you got turned off by my talk about karma and stuff, but if you're still here, good. If not, oh well. Raquel Kelly asks, oh, you're welcome. I see Dragon did say thanks for clarity, DH. You're welcome, Dragon. And I wish you luck in your issue. I hope that if you do get revenge, I hope that it serves you. And if it doesn't, I hope you learn from it. I'm not going to judge either way. But I do recommend if you want to try shadow curses, you could look into Shadownomicon. It doesn't tell you how to do curses with it, but it will put you in relationship with your shadows by personifying them and externalizing them and getting them to be something you can work with as egregores. And everyone has their version of these things. So when you learn yours, you learn everybody's, just so you know. But Raquel asked, DH, do you think Jung would say our ego is our shadow? No, I don't think he used the term ego the way I'm using it, or maybe he did. The shadow is that part of us that we are not generally aware of, or if we are, we're aware of it in a very passing way, or we're ashamed of it and we hide from it, basically. So you either know about it or you don't know about it, but you're kind of suspicious. Think about your triggers. Think about anything that triggers you in your life. You know, someone brings up something and you get mad. Even if they didn't mean to make you angry, it was just something, you know, that's a shadow. For me, there's still plenty of shadows going on. Like I don't ever want to portray myself as this enlightened master who's got no shadows and does no wrong. But one of my biggest shadows has been on very prominent display over the last 3 years, because one of them has a lot to do with the political upheavals going on. It's something I'm deeply attached to. Shadows can be a form of attachment and vice versa. Attachments and shadows go hand in hand. If you're attached to something and it's causing suffering, that's a shadow, because you wouldn't do it if you were fully aware of it. You would just be like, oh, this is not healthy for me. Why am I doing it? So anyway, let's scroll up and say, there's also people I didn't say hi to or here. We got Wyatt. What's up, Wyatt? Curson's here. Ajna's here. What's up, Ajna? Ajna could probably back me up with a lot of, I don't know, maybe Ajna would. Ajna, would you back me up on what I was saying about karma before if you were here? Because I know Ajna is like more, I'm not gonna say Ajna, I don't know if he's orthodox or not, but he's more in the, I'm more of a neo-Advaitin, and I think Ajna is more familiar with the legit stuff. So again, there's different traditions. Karma's a fucking word. It doesn't mean anything unless you make it mean something. So like they say, my karma ran over my dogma. Hardcore Zombie, what's up? A star is here. A star walked in when I was talking about Hitler. Yeah, sorry, a star. That was a hypothetical. Nice. I know. It's like walking into a spider web with your mouth open sometimes showing up on this show. And yeah, I'm definitely feeling a little woozy. What time is it? Yeah, I'll make it another hour, I think. I'm definitely going to be calling it early tonight unless I get really into something. And Black Dragon, you can also get the Kindle version for less, just so you know. I get it. 20 can be a lot in this time, you know. I get it. Especially if you're young or you're in a situation where you can't get what you need, you know. Astara puts it well. She says, I'm almost not even able to talk to people on the left-hand path because they're too blah blah, Satan this, Lilith that. But for me, it's just dogmas. Yeah, I agree. And she says, I don't know it all, but I just want to have fun. And I agree with you completely. I completely agree with you. It's not that it's wrong to work with the spirits. It's not wrong to have relationships with them in the same way you have relationships with people. It's just people take them so seriously to the point of delusion, of deeper egoic delusion is what I'm getting at. I would prefer anybody who wants to work with spirits, after you've had a non-dual awakening, then spirits are fair game all day long and they're safe. When you've had a non-dual awakening, no demon can scare you. Not in a real way. It may make you jump. You might get the willies. You might get nervous. You might get scared in the moment sense, but you don't get truly scared dread like you do before. You know, spirits come and go in your awareness. Sometimes they're in human form. Sometimes they are just in the mind. Or I shouldn't say that. It's always just in the mind. But sometimes they appear as people. Sometimes someone you know will speak and the words of a spirit will come out of their mouth. They're not being possessed. It's just that everything is a reflection or projection of the same divine being. And that divine being has within it every aspect or archetype you can imagine. Every personality, every possibility is in there. So again, somewhere in the multiverse, everything that is not real to us here is real in the real sense there. But you don't have to. Like, one of the things that drives me nuts about people who work with spirits is that they get it into their heads that what you see is what they are. Just like they think what they see around them is what really is. That's an illusion. None of you have ever seen reality. None of you. You don't even have to be a non-dualist to understand this. None of you listening to me see reality. You see what your brain or your mind thinks reality looks like. If you're a dualistic materialist, then you've only seen what your brain thinks reality looks like. You've never seen reality. You have no idea what it looks like. You only see what your mind thinks it looks like. That goes for demons, for people, for anything. Order the Black Dragon. But DH, I have a relationship with a spirit being that manifests strange physical realities. But it's funny how you say it's like not real because it's very real to me. Yes, that's Maya. Maya looks real. But Maya is not reality. It's just an appearance of reality. And this is where people really misunderstand what I'm saying. They'll say, Thorne's saying spirits aren't real. He's just a skeptic. I guess you haven't seen, I'm not talking to you here, by the way, Dragon. I'm talking just to the general, you know, whatever. I guess they haven't seen my Demon in Review videos. Watch those videos and tell me that I didn't have a realistic experience too. The thing is, it's all Maya. It is all the simulacrum. It is all a simulation of the mind. None of this is real. This ring isn't real. It simply represents something real. When I say something isn't real, I mean it's not real in the way we think it is. There is a reality to it. This isn't just an illusion to the point where it doesn't mean anything to me. If I'm standing on a train track and a train's coming at me, I'm getting the fuck out of the way because I know that that illusory train will hit my illusory body, and then the illusory body will be replaced by an illusion of blood, gore, and death and pain. I don't want to witness blood, gore, death, and pain. I want to see what this character does next. So I step gingerly out of the way just in time. And when a spirit arrives in my ritual chamber to talk, then I let it talk. That's right, Order of the Black Dragon. Only God is real. That's true. Do you know what that means, though? Only the divine is real. But if you treat that divinity as an external God with a beard and a cloud, you're an idiot. You've fallen for society's monotheistic or theistic religions. That's not the case. That's not reality. All of the gods are masks for the same divinity, and so are you. You are God, and only God is real. The spirits aren't real, not the way they appear. Again, this is where the language breaks down, because when I say they're not real, the idiot's misinterpretation of that is that it's a solipsistic delusion. No, Order of the Dragon, you don't have... Order of the Dragon, you can find God right now. Do you know what consciousness is? There it is. Do you know what consciousness is? Are you aware? Are you conscious right now? Bingo, you just found God. That's God. Consciousness is God. You are that. Tat Vam Asi, motherfucker. Look it up. Again, I sound aggressive. That's just my method. You probably know that. Look it the fuck up. Tat Vam Asi. T-A-T-T-V-A-M-A-S-I. Tat Vam Asi. That thou art. Ajna brings up Castaneda. Good call. I don't know about that particular book. I haven't read that one, but certainly his first book is a life changer for a lot of people. Ajna, tell that to the ashram, Ajna. There's this dude online who said Tat Vam Asi, motherfucker. Can you dig it? Hell yeah. I can fucking dig it. Fuck yeah. Kirsten makes a good point. Everybody's interpretation is different, but it doesn't matter what they think of your interpretation. All interpretations are delusions like everything else in Maya. The only way to have it right is to shut the fuck up, stop thinking about it, stop trying to define it, describe it, or explain it, and just sit with it as it is. When you sit with it as it is, bang, you get it. That's it. You don't need to talk about it anymore. Ajna. Do you tell your people about me, Ajna? What do they say? Do they go, oh, that guy's an idiot? Do you like record me so that they can all laugh? I would find that fucking hilarious. That would be great. But tell me your guru or whatever. Tell me your what do they call it, Swami or whatever. Tell me that they like laugh about what I said. Tell me that they think I'm an idiot. I would love it. Oh my God. To be clear, the person I am on YouTube is not necessarily what I'm like in real person, by the way. People who've met me and know me for a while know that I'm actually way more laid back than I act. When I'm on live stream, I'm trying to entertain you guys a little bit. I'm trying to be outgoing and entertaining. So some of what I say is pumped up. If you ever get to know me in person, I'm way more quiet about it, actually. I'm not trying to be as up, you know? It's like I'm compensating, but I'm not. Like, this is a fun game for me. I like being this guy, but it's not who I am. Okay, good, Ajna. I don't want them to kick you out. Order the Black Dragon. I recommend, don't worry about books. It's not about books. You can't learn what I'm telling you in books. Nothing I'm saying to you comes from books. All of my material comes from pretty much two places. I watch and listen to a lot of gurus, if you will. Alan Watts, you know, Rupert Spira, there's a whole bunch. There's just a whole fucking bunch. But they validate me. They don't teach me, because I spend a lot of time contemplating and meditating and doing these things. And a lot of what I say to you guys comes up out of nowhere. If I'm being honest with you, a lot of the things I'm saying just pop into my head when I'm answering the question. I don't know what I'm going to fucking say. Almost everything I do is a stream of consciousness on these streams. Very rarely do I think it through first. I have no reason to think about what I'm going to say, because whatever I'm going to say is going to be what my thoughts were going to be anyway, because I'm that honest. I don't like to sugarcoat or hide shit. If every once in a while I'll stop and you'll hear me pause and like try to think of something, that's when I'm not really there. In other words, that's when that's all just ego talking at that point. But when I am my true self, there is no pause, because it's literally just trickling out through my body direct from source. It's just direct from the subconscious. I have no idea what the fuck I'm going to say next. But because I've sat with that entity, that divinity long enough, I don't need to ask. I don't need to think about it. My interpretation of karma comes from no tradition that I know of, although I'm sure in some traditions it's pretty much what I said. How do I know that? Because once you have a complete non-dual realization, then when you contemplate that realization and compare it to life experience, you get the same answers that a lot of the gurus will give just intuitively, because they make sense. It's just pragmatically correct. It's just practical. It just trickles down. It just fills in the gaps. Manly P. Hall is really good. I kind of got bored of him, but I did like him. I listened to like maybe 5 or 6 hours worth of his stuff before I got enough. He's very good. I do like Manly P. Hall, but he's not a non-dualist, but he's very wise as hell. He knows a lot. He's been around every block. He's very good. Alan Watts, though, is still my all-time favorite. Especially for the beginner. Atropa says, you introduced me to Alan Watts, and he's great. He is. He's literally Obi-Wan Kenobi, but hippie version. He's literally the hippie Obi-Wan Kenobi. He is the Zen Obi-Wan Kenobi of the 60s, 70s, etc. The fact that the guy wasn't like the biggest celebrity of his time, I guess it makes sense, but it's like, I'm glad that the modern era people are rediscovering this guy. If everybody was required to spend, you know, a little bit of time in life studying Alan Watts's work, I think they'd be better for it. There's literally no negative to Alan Watts. Not even one. An American Plato, Tommy Carlson said. Talking about Manly P. Hall, I think. Yeah. I could sort of see that. I don't know if I'd agree, but I could see that. I could see what you mean. You know, Manly P. Hall, I don't know. You have to remember that era when he was really active was like the golden age of occultism in the West. It was really, you know, that was when all of this cool shit was going on. You had Crowley, you had Blavatsky, you had, Dion Fortune, I mean, Manly P. Hall. You had all these dudes and dudettes that were just amazing people. Not that I agree with everything that they say, but they were amazing. Jockster's asking for a close-up of the necklace. Okie dokie. I got this on Amazon. I forget what it was called. I don't know if it was like Vampire Ankh. I don't think so. It might have been. But it's got some extra details on it. One thing I don't love is it's got the Eye of Ra on it. I'd prefer the Eye of Horus personally, because Ra always struck me as like the almost like the Abrahamic god of Egypt, but you know, punishing humans and shit. But so I don't know if that's focusing good. I can't tell, but hopefully that gave you a good look. Okay. There we go. There we go. The light's got a good glimpse of it now. So it's got like just a whole bunch of little details. Bunch of little cool details that I like. I'm not going to wear it anymore. I took it off enough to put it back on. But yeah, that's my favorite necklace lately. It's very, it's not too big. It's not too small. It's not too religious. It just is. Oh, Tommy, I didn't know that. Manly P. Hall befriended Watts. Really? I believe it. Watts was friends with a lot of these people, actually. Yeah. He was known by a lot of these people, for sure. Yes, Watts was a drunk. The thing about Watts is, was he a drunk in the sense that he was gross? Was he a drunk because he was just addicted and couldn't help it? Was he a drunk because he practiced Wu Wei and just didn't resist the reality? I know his family, I haven't studied a lot what they've said about him, but I know the little bit that I've studied about what his family say about Alan Watts was the character we knew in his lectures. While it was representative of his philosophy, I get the impression that his family didn't hold him in the same regard that we do. I get the impression that he wasn't as well loved and respected by his children. But that could just be my perception. I could be wrong, but it's what it looks like from the outside. Does that mean that there was an element of fakery going on? I don't think so, because people ascribe to enlightenment or non-duality these ideas that it makes you a good person. It doesn't make you anything. This idea that non-dualism and all this will make you a better person, it doesn't make you anything. You are still, your nature doesn't change. You still are doing what you did before. But when you're aware, it's kind of like this, okay? Most people's actions are based on ignorance. In fact, everything's based on ignorance. If you understand the non-dual philosophy, you understand that Maya itself is a product of ignorance. All incarnation is a form of ignorance. So this is going back to like the Platonic idea of good and evil. In the Platonic sense, good has nothing to do with the actions of good or evil. The good is the divine, and knowledge of the good tends to result in people behaving in a way that emulates or resonates or reflects that goodness. People who are not aware of the good, people who have ignorance of the divine, tend to do the evil. So evil is a form of ignorance. It's an appearance of ignorance. It's a manifestation of ignorance. People don't do evil for evil's sake. Not a single person. I shouldn't say that. Generally speaking, people who do evil don't do evil because it's evil. They do evil because they're stupid. To quote the Bible, "Forgive them, O Father, for they know not what they do." This is what kills me about Christianity and all of this crap. It is so obviously the same things, just distorted to become a religion of control. I mean, come on. It is so obvious. Just that line from Christ on the cross, "Forgive them, Father, for they know not what they do." It sounds like he's saying, forgive them because they don't know they're killing the Son of God. That's not what he was saying. Fucking Orthodox Christianity twisted that into a thing about how you're supposed to kiss Jesus's ass. No! Stop it. It is so obvious that that line was, forgive them, O Father, for they know not that they are sinning. They know not that they are doing evil because they're ignorant. Evil is an expression of ignorance. It is a form, a manifestation of ignorance and nothing else. When you know, truly know what you are and what everything is, evil has a tendency not to manifest through you. It still can. You're not a saint. You don't suddenly become perfect. But just like when you know something is there, like, think of it like this. Doing evil is a little bit like walking through the dark and stubbing your toe on something. You don't know it's there because it's dark, so you stub your toe on it. But when you flip the light on, you go, oh, there it is. I'm going to avoid it now. Do you see what I'm saying? So when you're aware of your divinity fully and you're aware of what that really means, what divinity really is, and that divinity is universal, when you realize that, guess what? It's like flipping the light on. You tend not to stub your toe as often. You still can. You absolutely still can. You're just less inclined. So when people would look at Alan Watts and be like, oh, he's a drunk, we can't take what he's saying, that's stupid. It's like saying somebody has diabetes, so we shouldn't listen to them. Yeah, Kursan. And don't forget, he brings up some good things about Horus and Ra. A lot of that's, yeah. And not only that, so he says Horus and Ra both are symbolized by falcons. The only one that's interpreted with the beard as Ra is Osiris. All are solar deities, and one in the same, such as the three goddesses that's in today. Let's not forget Egypt is thousands and thousands and thousands of years of continuous history, living history, that their religion and pantheon changed just like anything else. There is no one true form of any deity in their religion. There's old versions and there's new versions, and they're all equally valid. So there's a lot of different people who will say that Horus and Ra are the same, and then some will say they're not the same, and they're all right and they're all wrong. That's right, Atropa, that's also true. But let's not forget, so Atropa brings out Crowley was a heroin addict prescribed by his doctor for his asthma. He wasn't able to quit until he was really old. And my point is that just because you have a substance problem doesn't mean you cannot function. Not only is that true, but I would also argue that it's not a sin. I actually had somebody come to me once saying that they were an addict and they were trying to change. And when they were explaining to me their reasoning, none of the reasons were their own. It was always about other people and what people thought about them. I'm not going to be an enabler here and say do what you want, but I'm going to say that do as you will. I'm not saying you should do it. I'm just saying that, remember before how I said about karma, trying not to get karma gets you karma? In the same token, trying to give up drugs or alcohol because you're afraid of what the world thinks of you doesn't necessarily make you better. In fact, you haven't actually cured the problem. If anything, you've covered it up with another problem. You're replacing one problem for another. You've got to beat the addiction because that's what you want to do. You have to beat the addiction because it's the right thing for you, not for the right thing for other people or society. You've got to stop. You've got to be the one who wants to stop. look, I never got into hard drugs, but I smoked cigarettes most of my life until I guess I was about 30. So from like off and on from 12 to 18 and then 18 to 30 nonstop, 12, like 2 packs a day, 1 pack a day, easy. I was hopelessly addicted to cigarettes. I had no intention of stopping. Then I got married and just one day I said, that's it, I'm quitting. You know, I saw my kid faking a cigarette and I said, you know, no, I can't do that. So when I gave up cigarettes, I quit them cold turkey. And it wasn't for other people. It was for me. I didn't like it anymore. It felt gross. Now you notice I said, oh, my kid, and that, but it was really for me. I felt guilty. I felt bad. And it was making me feel like shit. And I couldn't run or function like I used to. And I was fat and disgusting. And I was smoking and I felt all, so I quit. And man, I will never go back. And I haven't had another cigarette in going on 17 years. I quit cold turkey. The hardest 2 weeks of my life. I had constant mania because the addiction just made me crazy for a cigarette. And I had to do whatever it took to get my mind off of it. I've heard that cigarettes are one of the most addicting things on the planet and one of the hardest things to quit. It's probably true. But I made cigarettes my bitch. Ajab says, tobacco is an amazing plant. Actually, that's the sad thing, is that the tobacco that's in our cigarettes isn't the sacred tobacco that was actually smoked by the Native Americans. It's stronger. It's got other shit in it. And let's be fair, they did it ceremonial only on occasion. It wasn't done every day. That's right. Ajna said it just right. Industrial commercial tobacco. Just like anything that occurs in nature, if done in moderation, it's usually safe. You know, if you're aware of what's poisonous and what's not, you know. If it's done in moderation, natural things are usually, in quotes, safe. They are relatively safe. Things that are designer drugs, things that are industrialized drugs, things that are synthetic, that's when you got to take a step back. Weed, no problem. Smoke weed every day. Shrooms or whatever, same story. Cocaine on the other, like coca leaves, again, people chew them like just because it makes them feel like they had a little bit of coffee. The people will chew the coca leaves in South and Central America while they're working in the farm, and it has the same effect roughly that caffeine has. It doesn't make them addicted or weird or anything. It's the same kind of thing. It just boosts their energy a little bit better, actually. That's right, Ajna. Yep. He says in South America, we have the coca leaf. It's so beautiful, and that plant is like a sacred text. And I bet you what I just said, you'll agree with. That the coca leaf, the coca plant, by itself, in its natural form, in moderation, is perfectly fine. You're not going to hear me say that in a way I'm not going to say that, by the way, Susan Wojcicki, as a recommendation. I'm just telling you. That's how it's treated in those areas. In moderation. Would I do it? Probably not. But then again, I don't live in that world. So, you know, maybe I would if I did. And it probably wouldn't faze me. It's when you refine it into cocaine that you end up having a problem. And crack. Oh boy. Oh boy. So no, Susan Wojcicki, I'm not endorsing it. I'm simply telling you how the rest of the world sees it. Thank you, Kim. Kim said, good job, Thorne. I'm not sure for what, but I appreciate that a lot. Thank you, Kim. Probably about the cigarette quitting. I'll bet you that's what it was for. Yeah, Tommy, I see a lot of people talking about, I saw, they have it at a local CBD shop, like a little smoke shop, because it's legal or whatever. But I was looking it up, and I think if you're coming off of something, I'm not an expert on it, so don't take my advice on this at all. I've heard that it's good for people getting off of things, but I don't think it's something you want to do otherwise. And I could be wrong, but I don't think it's something that people want to do otherwise. Because I've heard it's got a lot of negatives, and it can get you addicted and all this shit. So I wouldn't recommend it. But okay, good point, Ajna. I didn't know that. Ajna says, if you come to the jungle, you have to have coca leaf. It's the way to get into the jungle mind space. I don't know how else to put it. I don't know if you guys ever saw, there was this movie that had Sean Connery, who was living in somewhere in South America in the rainforest. I think it was called Medicine Man. Yeah, it was called Medicine Man. My wife yelled it out. And there's a scene where he gives the girl coca leaf, and she's like up for like days. And but yeah, I think it's true. I think it's a sacred plant. I really do. Again, I wouldn't do it here, but if I was in Rome, I would do as the Romans probably do. Probably. Yep. That's true, Tommy. That is true. All of these natural things. Don't even get me started. The government is asshole. It's pretty much always wrong in this when it comes to the drug issue. Even when it's right, it still handles it wrong. So if they're sitting there saying cocaine is bad, we should make it illegal, fine. But they turn it into the drug war, which just turns into a black market trade that the government itself profits off of. So they have no interest in stopping it. So you might as well just leave it alone and let it be its thing and find other ways to curb it that don't have to do with outright making it illegal and criminal, etc. I am for decriminalization of pretty much everything. That doesn't mean that there's no penalties or that there's no drawbacks or no anything to go with it. It just means that I don't believe any naturally occurring substance, in particular, in their natural form, should ever be made illegal in that sense. It's when people refine things into these designer chemicals that you get the big problem. Like we're talking about the coca leaf. The coca leaf is pretty much safe. I'm not going to say safe. No, it is what it is, but it's not what it's made out to be, right? Like I said, I don't want to put my foot in my mouth on a YouTube video, but the entire point I'm trying to make is that there's an argument to be made for pretty much every naturally occurring substance. When I say naturally occurring, I don't mean the chemical, I mean the plant form, the fungal form. There's an argument to be made that if it grows in nature and isn't turned into some designer thing, that natural form shouldn't be regulated. This is why we're lucky in some sense that some of these plants are completely illegal to possess until you turn them into a usable form. So for example, San Pedro, which is an alternative to peyote, it's a little bit slower. It's a little less, I think it's a little bit more of a mellow version of it. A lot of people would say that it's not quite as by itself as good as peyote, but it's pretty close. A lot of people use them interchangeably. Well, San Pedro is considered an ornamental cactus here in the United States. So you can buy chunks of it for propagating for your own garden. And of course, the amount that's usually sold is just enough that if you ground it all up, and turn it into a pastry, a nice little smoothie, after you're done puking your soul out for a few hours, you'll see God. But you only get in trouble when you put it in the blender. Right up until the blender, you can have as much of it as you want. Look it up. It's a legal psychedelic it's not a psychedelic because it's a decorative plant. But as soon as you put it through the blender, it becomes illegal at that moment. And then you're in trouble if anybody catches you. But in the span of time it takes you to turn it into the blender and drink it, if a cop walks in, you have it coming, right? That's just God saying, it's your time to get arrested. What's up, Xander? I mean, I'm not a professional drug guy. I'm really not. It's not my focus, poison path. But I do get into a little chemonosis, okay? A little bit of chemonosis, I think, is a valid way of doing things, providing there is a little bit of self-control involved. I do believe, especially for people who don't have the time to devote a lifetime to going to an ashram and learning all these transcendental techniques, providing it is done with a spiritual foundation. So in other words, providing you know what you're looking for and know what you see. Then chemonosis is probably for the average Westerner the most effective way. But it's not necessarily the right way or the wrong way or the safe way or the not safe way. Everybody's different. That's why I like this Buddhist saying there are Buddhist ways for Buddhists and Christian ways for Christians. There's a way for everybody to realize their divinity. You don't have to do it exactly like everyone else does it. It's just another option. Chemonosis is a valid option and path. But by itself, just taking the heroic dose of DMT or whatever, you're not going to get the wisdom. And the goal should be wisdom, not to just have a wild experience that blows your mind. If the mind-blowing experience doesn't lead to wisdom, it was just a waste of time. So if you're going to be fucking around with chemonosis, you had better be coming at this from a very spiritual perspective with a valid game plan of how this is going to work. Don't just make it an excuse to get high. Anytime that I do any chemognostic activity, I'm literally doing breathing exercises and mental exercises to put myself in a deep trance with it. I use it as a facilitator for the trance. I don't actually use it to be woo, although that's a fringe benefit, don't get me wrong. It sure makes it more fun, but that doesn't change anything. It's the same experience, it's just heightened. It basically takes you from being a novice or an intermediate to an intermediate or a master very quickly. It's a cheat. It's a shortcut. And the traditional guys would say that is a bad idea because you don't learn the skills. I disagree. I just think it's a different way of doing it. I think that they both have their role. I mean, take what's his name? Fuck. I can see his picture in my face, but I can't remember his name right now. Terrence McKenna. Terrence McKenna made it very clear. If he has 2 or 3 far out trips on DMT a year, that's a lot. Like he made it, like when you listen to him, it sounded like he was doing it every week. Nah, the dude, he may have done it like 20, 30, 40 times in his life over 10 years or something, you know? Look at Joe Rogan. He talks about DMT like it's God itself, but he's only done it, what, twice? So these are not things you're meant to do recreationally. I'm not saying you can't. I'm not saying, weed, you can't do that. But I'm saying that if you respect it and treat it as a sacred activity, you'll be good. If you do it just for recreation, I think you're missing out. Now, granted, spirituality for me is a form of recreation. So, I mean, it could be an excuse. But in all honesty, that's not the point. A little bit of sativa during meditation, or a little bit of indica during meditation, or a little bit of both. It doesn't take a lot. Just something to take a little bit of the physical edge off of your life. That drop kicks the door open that's usually slammed shut, that you got to like push through to get there. That'll drop kick that door open. So in moderation, intelligently done, self-control, with respect, and for spiritual purposes, I really want to emphasize, you have to have a technique that you're applying to it. If you're just getting zooted or blitted or whatever and sitting there, okay. But if you're not doing that with meditative, transcendental, pranayama, qigong, if you're not doing those things with it, then you're just getting high and using spirituality as an excuse, and you're an idiot. But if you combine transcendental techniques, pranayama, qigong, any of these techniques, regular old guided meditation, if you do it that way, you are taking the big old knocker on God's doorway, and you're bang, I want to see and that door's going to open, and there's that mirror, and you're going to see yourself, and there's going to be nothing in the mirror. I promise. Yeah, Ajna, that's why I do like Castaneda. He gets it. He gets it. Whether Don Juan was a real person or not, I don't give a fuck. Especially Castaneda's first book in particular. That one was memorable to me. That one left the dent. Not because I didn't know. That gave me a huge amount of confirmation. That book confirmed so much for me that there was no going back, even though I'd already gone very far. That was like, okay, so everything I saw wasn't just me going crazy. Okay. All right, guys. I hate to cut it early tonight. I really do. But I am feeling it. I'm feeling tired. My voice is feeling dry. I think it could be the smoke too. I'm going to take my arm thing off too. I just feel blech. All of this smoke and everything, all the smog, it just got to everybody. And then with the keto fog that I'm on right now from being in the keto flu zone. Oof. Like if we were hanging out in person, I wouldn't be this animated and talkative tonight. Like I would just be sitting there chilling while you guys are talking. Like, to be brutally honest, I would just be hanging out tonight. Tonight would be a hangout night. Oh, speaking of which, sometime, hopefully this year is my intention, but it's sort of fizzled a little bit because I haven't been able to make any progress on it, but it's still early in the year. Sometime this late summer, early fall, I am contemplating setting up an in-person get-together at a public campground or something like that. Something that is got cabins on it or something, so it's not like roughing it, but we'll have privacy with a campfire and all that. Something where there's like 2 or 3 little huts we can rent, and just people meet up and hang out, even if it's just like 4 or 5 of us. So if you're interested in something like that and you're in the tri-state area of New York, New Jersey, you know, Pennsylvania, Connecticut, if you're in that area, it will probably be either a public or semi-public event. If I make it totally public, then anybody in this community is invited, but you got to pay your own way, obviously. You could coordinate with other people and split the costs if you all agree to share a cabin room or something like that. A lot of these cabins have like 3 or 4 beds in them. So if you get if you know people and you get along and you want to be like, hey, let's all share a cabin, that's cool. It would probably be like me and my wife, and I don't know if I'd bunk with anybody. Probably just be me and my wife. If Fleshy came out for it, that'd be different. He'd probably bunk with us. You know, he's like one of my best friends, so it's not like a big deal. Maybe Eddie, you know, something like that. Like my inner group siege, my inner group people could chill out in the same cabin. But that's the point. Like we'd want to get it like 3 or 4 cabins or something like that in a decent place at that time of year for like a weekend retreat where we hang out, we talk, maybe do some things, whatever we can get away with, and just have a good time without getting rowdy and getting kicked out, and just have a good time. And it's a possibility. I'd like to do it because the thing I did at Iron Garden was really cool, but it was hard to be intimate with everybody because it was a big, loud club. And I was like in celebrity mode and everybody had, you know, their hooks in me for time. So I couldn't really hang out and talk the way I wanted to do with everybody. So I'd like to be doing it again in a way where it's more intimate, where we can talk. That's right, Xander. Catskills has it, but a lot of places have that. Like bungalows is exactly what I'm talking about. Exactly. You know, especially that time of year where it's not too hot and it's not too cold. So keep that in mind. If you're interested in that, join my Discord. The link to the Discord should be in the description under the Linktree link. I use Linktree. It's got all my links in it. You click on that Linktree link and it'll explode. It'll go to another website where it's exploded as like 12 links. And one of them on there is join the Discord community. So if you're not in the Discord community, check it out. If you're in there, you want to look for the East Coast meetup after you've been fully accepted. You got to join the server and introduce yourself, follow the instructions, and a mod will get with you and will give you permission and hook you up. And then just hang out and talk and look for the East Coast meetup group channel and post in there if you're interested. So I figure if I can even get, besides my wife and me, 3 other people to do it, I'll try to make it happen. You know, especially if it's like Eddie or something, like good friends, I'll definitely try to make it happen. So. But yeah. And I'm not too sure about like doing rituals with everybody and everything. That's a, you know, do I share my energy with even trusted random people from the internet? We'll see. Probably not. It'd probably be more to hang out and do conversations and things like that. Oh, the Ajna, you're talking about the Midsummer one? It was probably the Midsummer one that you're talking about. The one where I did the knot tying ritual, the curse, the binding, 13 knots. Yeah, that was a good one. It worked pretty good too. Yeah, that was my Midsummer, like, you know, earth fertility, you know, it was a cool, I like that one. That one was fun. I liked making the idol thing for it too. It's too bad I had to take that down. I still have the skull. You know, I left that thing up and my landscapers came by, you know, the ones that work for my family that own the property. They came by to do cleanup and yard work and shit. And they saw that thing standing there. I can only imagine. All right, guys, I am shot and it's 11:51. So we're almost at the 2-hour mark. I want to thank you guys for coming out tonight. I realize it's a little bit shorter than usual, but you can probably hear my voice is starting to get a little bit dry sounding. But I appreciate all you guys. Thank you so much. Thank you, Patchy, for your super chat. Thank you, everybody. Thank you all to the regulars. Thank you for the new people. Thank you to all the friends that have been here for so long. In the very near future, I am going to be asking everybody to help me promote my new work. And this is going to mean I'm going to be asking you guys to post on your forums, on your groups, on your Facebook socials, everywhere that you can. Because I want to make sure it gets out there. Because the way things have been, I've sort of lost traction because of shadow banning and all the crap. So the next phase of what I'm doing, the hard part is done. I have something that if I were to die right now and my wife were to follow my instructions and post it online, it's good enough. The world would benefit. I think everyone that read it would benefit from it a little bit, maybe a lot. It'd be a lot better if I finished the book, but I've got enough of the part that was the hard part is pretty much done now. The difficulty is it's actually easier to lecture about it and to do dialectics about and to transmit directly. To write about it, it's a lot harder because it's so convoluted. To give it a good outline is all I was able to do, but that outline is powerful as fuck. And if I can turn that into something that I can start teaching people, I will be happy. Because this, hopefully this will be my magnum opus. Hopefully this will be the book. Like, oh yeah, Become the Maelstrom. Oh yeah, those will be my before books. I'm hoping this will be my after book. You know what I mean? I'm hoping this will be the book that really, I don't know if it'll be anywhere near as popular as the others. It probably won't. But I'm hoping that this book will change lives more than those other books did. It's literally the state of the art of how I practice now. It's an entire philosophical view that is it is a less common but still present interpretation of Advaita. You can find it. It's not usually taught outside of high level, simply because, of course, they use different language for it than I'm using, but simply because you've got to already, you don't have to, but getting the non-dual initiation done makes it a lot easier. So a lot of traditions don't talk about what I'm talking about in this book until you reach a certain point, simply because it can confuse you. But I think I've illustrated it and described it in a way that a lot of people today are ready for and will really, really reach a lot of people. And I'm hoping it'll work for you. And it may help you rationalize what magic is doing instead of this superstitious mumbo jumbo about, energy fields and shit like that. This is entirely supported by the non-dual philosophy. Although I will say that with the caveat, it is very cerebral, which means it's wrong. It's a model, which means it's not accurate or true, but it's more in the direction of truth than all this other shit that we've been doing. So, yeah, Ajna, people always find a way to get confused. And the reason for that is, drum roll please, do you know why everyone gets confused even when the truth is given to them directly to their face? Because the divine isn't ready to wake up. It's still having fun. There is no method that wakes you up. There is no path that will take you out of the forest. You will wake up when you are ready to wake up, not a moment before. But it's a lot harder to get struck by lightning standing in the middle of nowhere on a bright sunny day in a cave than it is to get struck by lightning in a thunderstorm. So if you're trying to achieve that enlightened realization, it's a lot easier and more likely to happen. In other words, the divine is more likely to just do it if you're already on that path, and the divine will put you on that path. So here's the rub. You can't do it on purpose, but you will do it when you're ready. Isn't that some shit? All right, anyway, thank you, Tommy Carlson, for that little sending off $1.99 red thumb in the air. Thank you, guys, and good night. Good night.